In the last 20 years, Illinois only got to 9 wins once, and for the first time since 2007, they're on track to do it again. That team was led by star running back Rashard Mendenhall, who ran for over 1,600 yards to help his team get to the Rose Bowl that season. And this year, Chase Brown's on pace to recreate that same magic. Illinois sits at the top of the West and controls their own destiny for a Big Ten championship berth. But with a top 20 ranking and a road game against a hungry Nebraska who hopes to keep their Big Ten West title hopes alive, this is the definition of a trap game for a team that hasn't been tested yet. This one's been a win for the underdog twice in a row now, but for the first time ever, the guys in orange come to Lincoln as the favorite, hoping to get to 7-1 for the first time in 21 seasons. So today, I'm giving you my preview and prediction for this game against number 17 Illinois. We'll talk about how these teams match up, and we'll finish with what I think the final score ends up being. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss my Friday night live stream previews or my post-game shows. And if you think Nebraska can upset Illinois this week, smash the like button now and help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
Yet across midfield. Touchdown, Nebraska! Omar Manning.
Every day, I get asked what my thoughts are on this coaching search. People want to know who I think the candidates are. They want to know if I think Mickey's the right fit or if there's someone under the radar that we need to watch out for. But the honest truth is, I know nothing, and I don't think anybody other than Trev Alberts knows much more than that. I always try to react to the rumors and what I see on Twitter for fun, and I decided to make an in-depth breakdown with 5 candidates who would make sense for this job and who might actually consider coming. So if you haven't had a chance to watch that one yet, I linked it in the top right corner for you to check out after we finish here. I wish I had more info. I wish there was some truth to the rumors, but honestly, there isn't one rumor, not a single one, that comes from a reliable source or that makes sense based on what we know about Trev Alberts and what he's looking for. So we're in total wait and see mode for the next 30-ish days. Another question I get asked almost every day is what's the next game I'm going to come to and how can we meet up? So I'm going to be in Lincoln with my family for the Wisconsin game on November 19th, and I'm going to make sure we do a meetup at a bar on game day, and I'll let you know where I'm going to be outside the stadium after it ends, and I might even do something the night before, but we're still a few weeks out from that trip, so I promise I'm going to do my best to make myself available so I can meet as many of you guys as possible while I'm out there. Let's talk about what this game means, because for the first time in a long time, both these teams are playing meaningful football at the end of October. Nebraska's 6-3 against Illinois since joining the Big Ten, and oddly enough, this game's rarely ever close. Even in last year's opener when Nebraska lost by 8, it was really over by the third quarter. Bielema is only in his second year, so we can throw the previous matchups before that out the door since this team finally found an identity. They win in the trenches, their DBs capitalize on bad decisions, and they run the ball almost 60% of the time. That formula works great against the weaker teams in the Big Ten, and they're in position to win the West even with a loss in Ann Arbor. Winning this one on the road would be their best win so far this year since Wisconsin was at their low point a month ago. They'd move into the top 15 nationally, and they'd be the favorite in 3 of their last 4 games. Nebraska might be below 500, but a win on Saturday would put them in second place behind Purdue. It would keep Mickey's head coaching hopes alive, and above all else, it would get this team to 4 wins and only 2 away from getting back to a bowl game. We haven't seen a ranked team get taken down in Memorial Stadium since 2016, and this is our last shot to see that happen until the Michigan game 11 months from now. Scott Frost never won a game off a bye week, but Mickey Joseph's 1-0, and he did it in impressive fashion. He did it against a team Illinois couldn't beat, and not only was the team healthier, but they played with more energy and more confidence than we'd seen in the 2 weeks before. Keep in mind, Nebraska was missing their number 1 player on defense in Luke Reimer, the starting right guard Brock Bando, and starting safety Marquise Buford Jr. against Purdue. Casey Thompson had his own injury issues for obvious reasons, so this break couldn't come at a better time. Illinois comes in with the number 1 defense in the country, and outside of Indiana scoring 23, The only team who's put up 2 touchdowns was Minnesota, and that was with Tanner Morgan and Mo Ibrahim healthy. The run D's their strength, and they only allow 78 yards on the ground per game and less than 3 yards a carry, which is pretty much the same average we saw Yant and Grant combine for in their last 2 games. Whipple talked about how important it is to establish the run this week, but if the offense wants to score, they're going to have to do it through the air. Since it's Halloween weekend, I've got 2 scary stats that you need to be aware of. Number one, Illinois has 23 sacks, which averages out to just over 3 per game. And they've picked off quarterbacks 12 times. And Casey Thompson mentioned in his presser that it should have been more than that, but their DBs dropped a few. Either way, those are problem numbers, especially against a depleted offensive line and a QB who's thrown 7 interceptions in only 4 Big Ten games. The 3 teams who tried throwing it were Virginia, who was breaking in a new OC and hasn't had much success on offense against anybody good, Wisconsin, whose QB had been a problem for 2 years under Christ, and Indiana, who threw it 52 times for 330 yards and ended up winning that game at home. Nebraska has the best receiving core, the best quarterback, and the best play caller that Bielema has faced all year. Trey Palmer's the highest graded receiver in the country, coming off a career day with almost 300 total yards. And because there's an NFL tight end in Vokalek and 2 other guys who can easily go for 100 plus, their defense won't be able to put 2 guys on Palmer without getting exposed somewhere else. Illinois has the number 2 red zone D nationally, and out of 11 attempts, they've only given up 3 TDs. You remember how crucial that missed pass was to Alante in the Purdue game when Mark Whipple had to settle for 3? This defense is even tougher to score on than Purdue was. Flipping to the weaker side of the ball, the Illinois offense ranks number 59 nationally, but features the number 1 running back in the country who averages over 5 yards a carry and doesn't get taken down at first contact. He's on the level of Braylon Allen or Mo Ibrahim at their peak, but this offensive line is way better than what those 2 are dealing with right now. The 3rd-string walk-on guy at Purdue went for almost 200 yards on the former Black Shirts, but missing both Reimer and Henrich was a huge factor in that situation. They'll get Luke back, which should help, but if Nebraska loses this game, it's going to be because they missed tackles. Their quarterback, Tommy DeVito, is a transfer from Syracuse who, like Chase Brown's in his 5th season, and although he's not the guy who will make huge plays, he doesn't give the D an opportunity to make any big plays either. He's thrown 10 TDs to only 2 interceptions, and he averages about 10 yards a throw, so most passes are screens or short and underneath to give the receivers room to run, but nothing close to the solid passing game the defense saw at Purdue. And the red zone offense is almost as bad as Rutgers at number 96 nationally, and out of 33 trips inside the 20, they only put it in the end zone 13 times. Their punt yards are similar to Nebraska, they're penalized as often as Nebraska, and the only edge in these less talked about categories is their +5 turnover margin to our -3, which has been the difference between winning and losing games against Northwestern, Purdue, and Georgia Southern, so it matters. We're going to talk about the spread for this game, but before we do, I got to make sure that if you do want to bet on Nebraska or any other team this weekend, that you have a chance to. So the sponsor for our channel is BroThrow, which is the best site I've used to place bets on games because they don't require a deposit, there are no minimums, there are no withdrawal requirements, and most importantly, I've saved over $160 on the VIG since it's not a sports book. Our Corn Craze community on the site already has almost 400 members taking bets for this weekend. So if you live in any US states and you're 18 plus and you want to join us there to get in on the action without paying any fees, without linking a bank account and betting anywhere from $1 to $100 or more, just click the link in the description below or head to brothrow.com/GBR and you can start placing bets with our community or other users on the site for any NBA, college, NFL, or whatever else you're going to watch this weekend. The line opened at Illinois -5, but it's already jumped to 7.5, and I don't expect it to move much more than that. Odds makers expect this to be a 1-score Illinois win, so if I'm getting that extra half point, taking Nebraska +7.5 is a no-brainer for me. Illinois went 1-1 in their only 2 road games so far, and a halfway competent Indiana team took full advantage and capitalized on multiple penalties, dropped passes, and 4 turnovers to win that one. So if that same team shows up to play this weekend, Nebraska's winning by 21. But they won't. They're way more experienced now. They won in a tough environment at Camp Randall. They're rejuvenated coming off the bye, and they're not taking this new Mickey-led team lightly. Illinois needs this win, but so does Nebraska. And there's a lot more pressure on the visitor to pull it out because they're ranked in the top 20 and they're in first place. So that's only going to make it that much tougher to lock in and focus on winning this game that they're supposed to. Purdue's offense was a matchup nightmare for Bill Busch, and the injuries only made it worse, but Whipple's offense still did enough to cover. And this feels like a game where points are at a premium. Both offenses want to try to run it first, and back and forth field goals feels inevitable. The question is, do you trust Nebraska to move the ball like they did on Purdue, or is this number 1 ranked defense as good as the stat sheet says? Nebraska's defense was non-existent at Purdue. They couldn't stop the run game. They were eaten alive by underneath throws, and Illinois has the pieces to pull up with a similar game plan this Saturday. Even if the D doesn't get turned around, Illinois doesn't score in the red zone, and if this ends up being a low-scoring slugfest, I'm taking the team with the offense I know has the firepower to get points on the board. Yeah, the offensive line's been shit, but the second half adjustments in back-to-back weeks have been remarkable, and Nebraska outscored Rutgers and Purdue 38-16 to finish off both those games. I'm sure Illinois has a good defense, but they haven't faced an offense with a true home run threat like Trey Palmer, or a play caller who can give them problems when they're already having trouble communicating in a hostile environment. Just like Basilak did, Casey Thompson can throw for over 300 on a secondary who hasn't been tested by a real QB all season, and Nebraska has a chance to force their offense to adjust if they get any sort of a lead, since they haven't had to play from behind in any game they won all season. This isn't Connor the Nebraska homer making a prediction. This is the Connor who predicted a 6-point loss at Purdue, telling you Illinois is due for a loss. They're playing in the toughest environment they have been in all year against the best offense they've seen all year. And if there was ever a week for Nebraska to expose a fraudulent touchdown plus favorite like they did at Purdue, this is the one. I'm taking Nebraska to win outright in a defensive battle, 27-23, in the most physical game we've seen so far this year, with both sides coming off a bye. Feeling confident and decently healthy, knowing that their Big Ten West title and bowl game hopes are on the line this week. And this is the most meaningful matchup we've ever seen between these two teams, and it'll probably be the closest game we've ever seen them play against each other. But I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Is Illinois for real, or have they just gone 7 weeks in a row being untested? Is home field advantage going to play a part in this one, or are Nebraska fans checked out and expecting a loss on Saturday? Is the 7.5-point spread too much, or is Illinois going to run away with this against a questionable front seven? I think Nebraska is going to come out and play with the energy we saw against Indiana, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see the offensive line take a step forward to help Casey a little bit more, or even open up a hole to let Grant get loose for a 20-yard carry one time. But I'm going live Thursday, Friday, and Saturday after the game, so I hope I see you there. But until next time, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.